This is a map of Kazan. It's a city in Russia. And this is a map of Chiang Mai. It's a city in the northern Thailand. Today, let's write a program about a population of a city. We will have a variable called pop, stands for population, and pop is an integer. In C, we will write it like this. Int pop with a comment. And we can assign a number to it like this. In fact, let's make it a population of some city. Let's say Tokyo. What's the population of Tokyo?
In 2019, the population of Tokyo was 13,942,856.
139428556.
That's about right. When writing a program in C, it's actually important to look deep into the system. Each memory actually have a location, and the location or the address of the memory look like this. 0xefbff534. Whoa, what is that? That's too difficult. Let's simplify a little bit. Let's say it's 1,000. And pop is a variable that lives at the location 1,000 in the memory. And in that location, there are 32 bits of integer in the memory. In the real world, an integer actually can mean anything from negative infinity to positive infinity, or it can be just 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, negative 10, 0. Doesn't matter. But it cannot be 1.5. That's called floating point. Okay? But in C, an integer cannot go up to infinity. It has some limit because it is just an approximation using 32 bits of memory. So there are about 4 billion possibilities. Half of that is for negative number and the other half for 0 and positive numbers. So the memory at location 1000 look like this. So those are 32 bits of 0. In fact, we don't know whether they are zeros. They could be all ones. They could be ones mixed with 0. It's up to the system unless we initialize it. But once we write pop equals 13 million, just like this, the system actually go to the location 1000 and it will keep that number 13,942,856 inside the 32-bit box as a binary number. For simplicity, we will write our memory map in decimal numbers. But in fact, we know that they are binary numbers. Okay, let's do that. In most other languages, you cannot even get the location 1000 here of the memory. But in C, it lets you access that location, that address of the variable by using something that we call referencing a variable. And we do it with an ampersand like this. When we put an ampersand in front of the variable name, it means the location or the address of that variable inside the memory. And in this case, it's 1000. There is actually also a star, like star pop. But let's not worry about that for now. We'll keep it for later. Okay, fun fact. I told you that a 32-bit number can store the positive numbers up to about 2 billion. It's actually exactly this. If an integer variable reaches that number and you try to add 1 to it, it will go to the negative numbers. And actually that has happened in the real world. Some time ago, YouTube actually has a 32-bit number representing the view count of a video. And one of the videos was actually the first video to break that record, to break that limit. Guess which video that was?
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
It was Gangnam Style. The view count actually went to the negative numbers for quite a while before YouTube fixed it. Okay, we have a variable, a number variable, and now we want to print it out. We will use a printf command like this. %d here is a format string. D stands for decimal. It's like we are telling the printf command that we want to print a decimal number here, and it will look for a variable later, and here it finds the variable. It's called pop, and it will look at the pop memory, and it will find about 13.9 million, and it will print it out. Let's try. There you go. It print out the number. Now that you have print out a variable, let's take the variable as an input. We will ask the user what is the population of their town, and then keep that number inside the variable pop. For this, we will use the scanf command like this. We give it a format string of %d. D stands for decimal. Now we want to give the scanf an information of where to put the number once it has taken the input. Scanf would need a memory address to put that value. So we need to give it an address of pop. How do we get the address of pop? We reference it using the ampersand. So we write it like this, ampersand pop. Let's try it. It asks for an input, so let me just give 120 people. Population is 120, so it takes the correct input and prints the correct output. So, to recap, to take an input, we use the scanf command. And %d stands for decimal, that's an integer. It means we want to read an integer. And after that, we want to put it here at this address. Address is the keyword here. So the second argument of scanf must always be an address where it can write the result to. Very good. Now we just need the town's name. At first, we will just hard code it. Hard code actually means to write a value inside the code without taking any input, just to test other part of the program. And then after everything else works correctly, we'll come back and take the value of the town's name as an input. Let's say the town's name is Tokyo. We want to have a variable called city. City is a text. In fact, text is not a correct term. We will call it a string. City is a string, and we will have Tokyo as the initial value of city. We will write it like this in C. Wow, that was easy. Let's take a look at what we just wrote. Char here means a character. It is actually just a single character. What is a single character? It's a character that hasn't been married yet. No, it's just one letter or one number. A string must have multiple characters coming together to form a string. That's why after the city, you see a square bracket here. That square bracket serves as an indicator that city is not just one single character, but it is an array of something. So what's that something? It's an array of chars. An array is like a table, a simple table. In this case, it's a table of size 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And inside that table, there are the characters T-O-K-Y-O. Oops, what's the last one there? The last one is for a special character. It is not the number 0, but it's the character number 0. It's actually technically called a null character. Or in C, we would write it like this with a single quote, \0. This one tells the compiler that the string ends here. So we know that Tokyo is all of the string here. It doesn't go beyond the null character. So as you can see, when you write just a simple line of declaring a string and giving it an initial value, the compiler actually does many things. The system will allocate an array of size 6 characters and put the characters in it. And that array has a location inside the memory. It has an address. Let's say it's at 2000. At the location 2000, it will have something like 6 cells, 6 empty cells. And there will be T, O, K, Y, O, followed by the special character 0. Again, remember it's not actually the number 0, but it's the null character, which equals to the numeric 0. Not only that, it will allocate another 4 bytes of memory for the variable called city. Let's say it puts that variable at the location 3000. City is a pointer. It contains a pointer that points to the area that contains the first character T, which is the address 2000. How does it point there? Does it have an arrow like this? Well, conceptually, yes, but inside the system, there's no such thing as an arrow. It will contain the value 2000, which is the address of the first letter T in the array. So let's put 2000 here. As you can see, the string in C is quite complicated, not like in Python or in Scratch or in Java. But remember, inside the memory, everything is just 0 and 1s. There are no integers, there are no floating points, there are no strings at all. It's all up to interpretation. And C chooses to manage the strings this way, and it works. It may not be the most convenient way, but C will give you the benefit of being able to mess around with all the little details of the system. And that's why people who are serious about programming try to use C. And when you get used to it, it's not that complicated, but you have to always be careful. For now, let's just remember that in C, a string is like a pointer to a location in the memory that contains the first character of the string. And then at that location, there will be an array of characters. The number of characters inside the arrays would equal to the number of characters in the string plus 1. The last one being the null character, which is like a 0 to indicate that the string ends there. Now that we have an understanding of what a string is and how it is kept in the memory, let's print it out. How do we print it out in C? We use the command printf with the format character %s. Let's piggyback to this command here. Population of %s is %d. That's easy, right? So we have to give the name of the string variable here. So let's put city here and let's try. Let's put 300. Population of Tokyo is 300. That works. Of course, we don't just want the output. We want to take the city name as an input as well. We don't want to hard code it all the time. So let's change that. Let's change the declaration to just city like this. And let's compile. Oops, it doesn't compile because the compiler actually expects you to give it the size of the array that you want city to be. But how do you know the size? The name of the cities are all different. It could be very short, it could be very long. But you know that the maximum number of characters of a city name probably should not exceed 200 characters, or maybe just 100 characters. So let's put 100 here. In fact, let's give it 101. Why? Because if it is 100 characters long, you will need one extra space to store the null character. That is very important. Don't forget about that. Now we want to take the input using the command scanf with the format string %s. So let's do that. What should I put here? Should I put city or ampersand city. Let's change the question a little bit. What do I actually want to put here? I want to tell scanf where to put the information that it gets from the user. That information should be in form of the address of the memory and which variable contain the address that we want to put the city's name in. Let's look at the memories map. Here, we want to put 2000 in there, but it's actually not 2000, of course. 2000 is just a fake number that we come up with. Ask yourself, which variable here contains the value 2000, the address of Tokyo? Of course, it's the city variable without the ampersand. If we put the ampersand, it would have been 3000. That would be wrong. So we will use the city name here. Notice the difference? For a string, when we use scanf, we don't put the ampersand. For a primitive type like int and float, we will use the ampersand to indicate the address of that variable. But since a string is already a pointer to an address in the memory, we don't need to reference it using the ampersand. Okay, enough talking. Let's try it. What's the name of the city? Let's try my hometown, Pattaya. And what's the population of Pattaya? Actually, let's find out. We asked Siri earlier, so let's ask Google too. What's the population of Pattaya, Thailand?
119,532 people.
119532. Population of Pattaya is 119532. Wow, so it works quite well. Let's try again with Chiang Mai. Pay attention. Oh no! What happened here? It asks what's the population of your town and then it doesn't wait for my answer. And then it says population of Chiang is 0. What happened here? Let's hit pause for 2 seconds and take a guess. So it turns out that scanf with %s format string really does not like a space inside the input. In fact, what it expects is a single token. It's like a single word without any space in between. It will take Chiang just as an answer. Once it sees a space, it just takes Chiang as the input for city. And then when it asks what's the population of your town, it expects actually a number, but it gets the next token, which is my. And of course, that's not a number. So the variable pop will get an undefined value, which just happens to be 0 in this case. And then the program ends. So scanf might not be what we want here because it tries to read just a word. But in fact, we want to read the whole line. No matter how many spaces in there, we want to read the whole line. And the line is not longer than 100 characters. In other languages, there is usually a function called readLine, like in Java, or a function ask, as in Scratch. Is there a function like this in C? You betcha. But the name of the function doesn't sound very sexy. It's called fgets. That's quite a cryptic name, but everything has a meaning. F here means file, and get means get, and S means a string. So fgets is like telling get a string from file. But we don't want to get it from a file. We want to get it from the keyboard. Don't worry, there is a file that corresponds to the keyboard input. It's called stdin. So let's comment out scanf and let's put in fgets instead. It works like this. I'll give it the target string, which is city. Then I want to give it the maximum number of characters I want it to read from the input, which is basically the size of the array city, which is 101. And finally, I want to tell it which file I want it to read from. Of course, it is the keyboard, which is standard input stdin. That's all. Let me just write it down for you one more time. fgets means file read string. City is the target string. 101 is the maximum size of the string. And stdin is the file handle of the input file, which in this case happens to be just the keyboard. And this will read the whole line. And let's try that. What's the name of your town? Chiang Mai. Enter. What's the population of your town? What's the population of Chiang Mai, Thailand?
As of 2014, the population of Chiang Mai was 132,634.
Enter. Population of Chiang Mai is 132,634. That was almost perfect. But what happened here? Why does it go to a new line? What happened? Let's hit pause and think about it. Okay, that's right. It's because the input string city contains the new line character as the last character before now. Because when it asks what the town is, I type Chiang Mai and then I press enter. That enter key goes to the string as an input and is the new line character. To prove our hypothesis, let's count how many characters should be in Chiang Mai.
CHIANG space MAI.
10 characters. So let's find out if the string length is 10. How do we get the length of a string in C? There is a function for that. It's called string length, strlen. It works like this. First, I'll declare an int variable called m that will keep the length of string city. And then after I get the input, I will calculate m equal strlen of city. And then let me print it out right here. There's a little bit of warning here. Let's ignore it for now. Let's run the program and put Chiang Mai. Enter. You see, the length of city is 11. That means there is an extra new line character in our string. Our hypothesis is true, so we must get rid of that character. Let's look at the memory map again. The string is an array, and the first thing in the array is here, is at position 0. And then it goes to position 1 and 2 and 3. And if a string has length m, what is the last character inside the string? It's actually not at position m. It's at position m minus 1 because we start from 0. In C, there is a way to get to the individual character inside a string. It works like this. I just type the variable's name and then the bracket and then 0. That would be the first character. So the last character would have been m minus 1. City m minus 1 is the last character inside the string city, which would be the new line character, which we want to get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? Just change it to null. And this is how we do it. City m minus 1 equals null, which is denoted by a single quote and then backslash 0 and then a single quote again. And that's how we get rid of it. The string will be shortened by one character. If you don't believe it, let's try to print out the length of the string again. Just copy these two lines here. And then it will calculate the string length of city and keep it in variable m. And then it prints out the variable m again one more time. You see, at first the length is 11 And after that operation here, the length become 10. And let's put the population of Chiang Mai. I forgot, did you remember? Let me just put 1,333.
Population of Chiang Mai is 1333.
And it's in the same line. It's so beautiful, but it's not perfect. That's okay. Our code is far from perfect. The return type of the string length function and the type of variable m are a little bit different, but let's keep that issue for later. And also, we probably should have checked if the last character in the city is actually the new line character before we change it to null. But I think that's okay for now. You have done a very good job of getting this far. Congratulations, you have just learned about basic variables in C, such as int and string, and how to take input and write output. How C keeps your variables and strings inside the memory, and how to take input using scanf and fgets function. Finally, you have learned a little bit about basic string manipulation, such as getting the length of the string using the string length function, and how to trim off the last character in the string by accessing each individual character of the string. In the next lesson, we will learn more about how to perform some basic calculations inside your program using the integers values and also some of the floating point values. We will still be using this file for later on, so let's save your file and don't lose it. And see you in the next video. Bye!